Alrighty, I'll tell you. All right, here we are. Hello, hello, Grace. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm so excited you are joining me here. Total Writing. I actually haven't done a live in a while. We've been really busy with registering kids for summer writing enrichment and, of course, rising seniors for the college admissions essay. So, thank you again for joining me. And Grace, today we're going to talk about your I know you have 7 tips. Our goal is to get to 5, but I know once you and I start really taking a deep dive into writing technique, maybe we'll only get to 3. But folks, today, Grace is going to give us some of her best tips that apply to when Grace is writing, because she's a published author writing her book, as it connects to college admissions essay writing. But Grace, before we get into it, would you please introduce yourself to our audience?
Hi, my name is Grace Gilrane. As previously mentioned, I am a published author. I independently published my first novel called All the President's Men. You can
Awesome.
buy it on Amazon. It just turned 6 months old a few days ago. Um, and I just finished up my first year of college and have gone through the Total Writing Enrichment college essay course. And so, I have the wisdom of experience with that, and then also a more like creative writing approach to, some of this.
Yeah, yeah, awesome. And I think that's going to be something that I've always been fascinated by, Grace, is oh, thanks, Melissa. My friend Melissa is watching. She said, so cool, Grace. So great. Oh, yeah. Oh, happy birthday to your book. 6 months. That's great. 6 months. So, I mean, I think what I've always been fascinated by, Grace, is you. I mean, you're the penultimate. You're a published author, yet you still wanted and you sought out guidance and coaching for writing your college admissions essay. So that's a question I love to hear. Like the reasons how, given your skills, given your natural, not just your skills, but what you like to do for writing this particular essay, what the reasons were that, and I know we've talked about that before, but I I thought, and let's leave that if we have room at the end, because I know parents really want to hear some of these tips. So parents out there, it occurred to me when Grace and I were thinking of our topic, it occurred to me like, how did Grace develop herself as a character in her college admissions essays? And how does that connect to her creative writing when writing about other characters? And Grace, I don't know about you, but I find with seniors writing these college admissions essays, they actually have spent the past 3.5 years of their English writing lives writing about other characters in books, right? You read The Great Gatsby, Hester Prynne, Scarlet Letter, Holden Caulfield. I mean, Romeo, Juliet. So we're going to talk today about your techniques for bridging that gap between writing about yourself in the college essays and also writing and developing character in books. And the first tip I have, and so please talk to us about this, is you said, well, you are the main character. And I'm looking at our notes, and talking about yourself can be hard for some people, especially when you have to do it for your college admissions essays. So how did you do it? What tips do you have for seniors? Just how can you help us out here?
Honestly, I was thinking I dropped in on a sort of Zoom seminar that you did a few days ago, and one of the moms mentioned, we've tried to teach our kids humility their whole lives and don't say too much about yourself. And now you're presented with this 650 word essay where all you have to do is talk about you. And so it could help to just think of it as, okay, I am not writing about me, I'm writing about Grace, the character, and this is what she did, and this is how it made her feel, and this is how she overcame these challenges, and this is a funny anecdote that is relevant to the thing.
So that's great. Yeah. So what I'm hearing from you, and I'm going to try to type some of these tips in the comments. So I know we have a lot of viewers on the replay and they can, quickly glean these tips is you're saying, look, if you're struggling, seniors, to write about yourself. And I know that's hard. How can you flip it and imagine yourself as a character in a book? And perhaps that takes the pressure off. Oh my gosh, I am looking at cuteness behind you. Grace, the dog, Augie. Second funniest dog ever after Archie. Look at, yawning away. Okay, that's awesome. I'm going to type that. So tip number 1 is talking about you as the main character and flip it like you're taking a step back and it's not you, but you're viewing yourself as a character in the book, because that's what seniors have been doing up until now for English class essays. That's brilliant.
Yeah.
I love that. Okay, very good. Is there anything else you wanted to talk about regarding that tip?
I don't know. Hopefully that just also kind of gives, reassurance that like it is okay to be talking about yourself for that long. And a lot of, this process can be just pitching yourself, and that's a life skill that's going to come into play, later on. I've had to give the elevator pitch of what my book is about, and I was doing it to my friend one time, and I was like, I'm sorry, I don't know how to talk about myself. And he was like, well, you better learn, because this is your job.
Love that. Yeah.
So
yes, right.
It's a skill that extends beyond, just the college essay.
Mm-hmm. And I love when you referenced the Zoom we did with parents and students the other day. And I do remember the mom that said, ultimately, it's like finding this balance between highlighting, your strengths, your amazing personality, but also capturing that with a humble, friendly tone. And that is difficult. It's really difficult to teach tone. And that's where it's really helpful to have a coach, I think. Okay, cool. Okay, tip number 2. What did you mean by this, Grace? I'm looking at your notes, and you have what is your character profile? ? And then you give this wonderful example of, for all the Harry Potter fans out there, of Harry Potter and even looking at Hermione. So talk to us about developing character profile.
So something that comes into play really early on when writing a book is you need to know who these characters are that you're writing about. And that can be as extensive as these are all of their physical traits. This is their middle name and their age and their zodiac sign or where they went to school. And you don't need to have all of those specific things, identified about yourself. But going into writing this college essay that highlights your strengths and your talents and all of the special things about yourself, it is, useful to just have those in mind when writing. And so there's a lot of, there are things on the online total writing course that you can take these quizzes and surveys, and it'll help you identify what your, strengths are and where, your best abilities lie. So just having that in mind, as part of the pre-writing process, so that you can go in well prepared.
Perfect. I love that. So really, Grace, what you're talking about, so in the Total Writing College Essay Program, there are steps that we give students if they're really struggling to identify who they are as a person, what they want to talk about in these essays. So there are a series of questions. So that means a lot coming from you, Grace, that you actually find those, those pre-writing questions valuable, because I think that also, to flip this script, so many students worry about what topic should I write about, and what you've gone through, and it was successful with your college essays. And what I'm hearing you say for other students is, forget about the topic right now. Let's focus on you, on your character. Yeah, that's excellent. Okay, cool. Okay, so tip number 3. Okay, this resonates. This hits home with me with struggles I see from a lot of students. So do you need to talk about your backstory? So were you writing that kind of as a question for students? Like, is it almost like, do you really need to talk about your backstory? Like that type of thing.
Yeah. I think so. I think it's more identifying what about like your backstory or your origin story is relevant to the topic. Um, I wrote my essay about writing a book, and so I've had other experiences in my life that have been monumental and, you know, have changed me as a person. But for that particular moment of writing, maybe that is not, maybe they don't need to hear about when I was in the Nutcracker or when I moved in fifth grade. Um, and it's all good material to pull from, but there is a word count. And keeping things sort of concise and to the point, I think also demonstrates a level of skill in writing. You don't want it to, veer off on a
Mm-hmm.
not necessarily irrelevant trail, but
No, I hear you. So really, I think this is huge. And where I am right now in coaching kids, like the beginning stages of their essays. So we've gone through these, those questions. They're examining their character, and then they're taking the big leap and trying to move into writing a first draft. Grace, this is where this tip number 3 comes into play so much. I'm reading and reading about like the blue sky and the white puffy clouds and the sunshine, and it has absolutely nothing to do with what the student is going to try to portray about themselves for this essay, or lovely detail about like a house or a cabin. And sometimes it could, sometimes that information could, or yeah, like their dance recital, in the past, and it's part of who they are. But when it really comes down to what they want to tell the colleges, like if it's irrelevant. It's almost like if I was grading that essay, like a narrative essay, I would write in the comments like relevancy to your main point. So I love that. I think that's really, really important. What do you remember what in your notes, like, and if you're watching this on the replay, please type in replay. And what we would like to offer for you also is Grace has beautiful notes and tips that she has created for your rising seniors. If you're interested, parents, in Grace's notes to help your seniors crank out these essays or at least launch them into studying them, please write yes, interested, and then you can message me or you can put your email in the comments. I'm happy to send this to you. But what I'm looking, I know you love Harry Potter, and you said, to round out our Harry Potter examples, let's use Ron. Throughout the series, Ron displays insecurity, but also great loyalty. When you look at his backstory, these contrasting traits make sense. So what is the point you're trying to make about Ron? And then I'm going to type this tip up.
So the character, in the sort of trio of them, both Harry and Hermione are only children. With, you all know, it's a very famous book. Yes. But Ron comes from a really big family, and so there's competition within family. There's this kid's really good at this, and this kid's trying to compete with that, but he's actually, so that level of competition and him being on the younger end of this string, I think there's like 7 or 8 of them, can lead to some insecurity in that he doesn't live up to the way that his brother does this or the way that his other brother does that. But he also has I think, very fierce sense of loyalty that comes from having such a tight-knit family. And so they're sort of 2 not aligning traits, but they're very relevant to, who he is as a character. And
yes, I get that. So what we're talking about right now, parents, are when your students are developing their college essay story and they're giving background information. Really, it's like relevancy. I say this to so many seniors. How are these details? And Grace is giving us examples from her love for Harry Potter and also published author, her work in writing her book, also in developing her college essays. It's crucial for students to be able to know how to edit out if information is not relevant or not. Now, Grace, I will say, and I don't know if you remember this from working with me on your college essays, that first draft, it's like, just let it go. Just get it out there. We're not going to
Yes.
like take the old red pen at that point. And Grace, I think this naturally leads into your tip number 4. And parents out there, I know your students have heard this before. It's the show, don't tell. So, I mean, you just gave an example in talking about Ron. So, what would be like a bad way of writing about a trait of, I know I'm putting you on the spot, of Ron? What would be like a simple way that someone might do in 5th or 6th grade? They might just write what?
Well, I guess sort of the, not metaphor necessarily, but what I'm thinking of relative towards this is that, be like, Ron is brave or Harry
Perfect.
is courageous.
Absolutely.
And
Yep.
instead of just, you can tell that to someone, but it's like, okay, great. But like, where,
Show it. Right.
you know,
Right. Show, don't
uh,
tell. Yeah, absolutely, Grace. Great job. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so one of the ways that, although simple, um, all, Harry, Ron, and Hermione all get sorted into the Gryffindor house, which has the X, Y, and Z traits. And so it does toe the line between showing and telling, but in the world of magical hats that can predict your traits, that obviously has to sense something within you. And then throughout their, 7-book series, they all go on to display, great courage and loyalty
Those
and
traits. Right. 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 So I think ultimately what we're getting at here is, and again, I know it's difficult because students are just starting to write these. And so we want them to get their story out in editing. And parents, this is a way you can help your kids is, first of all, they've identified the traits that they want the colleges to know about them. And then it gets to how. How are they doing that? And it gets to the skill and the technique. And so what Grace is doing today is bringing in her creative writing techniques in trying to bridge the gap between successfully writing and completing college admissions essays and successfully authoring and publishing her first book. So it's the old show, don't tell. This is a really simple one, parents. If you are reading through your students, drafts, this is simple. You can write this, or in a Google Doc, highlight it, like, how can you better show this? And this is where, again, I'm going to get on my soapbox and say, the more kids read, the more they see and know how to do this. And if they don't, and you're at this point in these essays, you want them to be done, but before they step into senior year, well, that's where getting help, I think, can go a really long way. Okay, we have I have your tip here, Grace. So how can you show, not just tell? And I think that you've covered that, don't you? Like, how can you
yeah.
show? Yeah.
There's different ways, through things that people say, things that people do. I
Oh,
have
actually,
such
let's cover notes. This is super important. This is super important. So how can, okay, you've said to your student, you need to show, not tell, right? Don't just say like Harry Potter is brave. Show it. Don't just say I was suffering tremendously when I was shy. Let's say this is your student. I was suffering tremendously in class. You need to show that. So Grace, this is huge. Tell us some techniques. How do authors develop character through, I know what you're going to say, I'm not going to say it, through some of these techniques? What are some things they can do?
well, dialogue was one of the, initial ones. Whether that's dialogue, that has come out of your mouth or somebody else said it. If someone paid you a compliment that was, represented your traits and, the characteristics that make you who you are, or even if you're trying to demonstrate bravery, did you speak up in a difficult moment? Did you, say something that could have been a little bit risky, but it ended up having, it had a payoff? Just
Yep.
confronting somebody, intimidating can be.
Yep. Excellent. Let's capture these. So number one, in the essay, in the college essay, and I encourage students to do this a lot, and I'm blown away by the fact that they have not practiced this in a narrative essay in school, but I can't change that. And so number one is include dialogue. What are you, the character in your college essay, saying? Or what is someone else saying to you? And what is your response? That's a way to develop character, that's huge. And then that's a sophisticated writing technique. And then number two, what I'm hearing from you, Grace, is what is the action? What action are you taking in your college essay to show your characteristics, to show your personality, right? Not just tell, or action that you're doing with someone else. Drop the mic. If students can weave those writing techniques in to their college admissions essays, they've moved to a higher level of demonstrating sophistication with writing skills. So thank you. Those are wonderful. I think those are, I know you can go on. I think those are good for now. So very good. And I think that, is there anything else you want to say along those lines before we move on?
No, I mean, I have such a like vivid memory of when I was writing my own book, there is a character where they're sort of like a romantic pair, and they're doing something as simple. They're crossing the street at a crosswalk, but before they go, he puts his hand like on her back to sort of, make sure that what if something, I don't know, but someone who was reading it like highlighted that and commented, was like, oh, it really shows that like he cares for her. And it's something so simple and like instinctual that you would have never thought about it, but it communicates so much.
I love that, Grace.
So,
that's
showing
really cool. Yes. Yes. Will you show us your book again for new people that are hopping on and people that are watching the replay? Here's Grace's, and you can All the President's Men by Grace Gilrane. You can order it. It could be at your doorstep from Amazon in a couple of days, right? So that's awesome. Very good. Okay, so cool. So I know we are a little bit over our time. This is fabulous. Let's do a quick recap. So Grace Gilrane, published author, went through the Total Writing College Admissions program. So gifted writer, still finding coaching with this kind of writing invaluable. Can you tell us like a reason, like what is that reason? I mean, here writing, Grace, has come easy for you, yet you still thrived by having like a coach.
I think for me personally, like creative writing and writing for school, it's so drastically different, and even just being like a sophomore and like being handed back an essay by my super hard English teacher, me being like, why is it? So the college essay, it's kind of somewhere in the middle of those two skills. And so having someone to coach you through that, because there's not a lot of like education in school, I guess, about, you're writing about your books for English class and historical events and X, Y, and Z. And just having an expert hand who knows, how to instill confidence in a kid who maybe doesn't think that they, can write a college essay, or can write a good one at least. And just, kind of having someone to guide you through the process. And it's
Yeah. So really what I'm hearing from, go ahead.
It keeps you on track and doesn't, let things get away from you, even just with like the timeline of when everything is due. And if you can get, the main essay done by August or, September or whatever, then you can focus on the supplemental essays. And it's a good guide to, it's complicated and sometimes a little bit scary process, but I think this sort of eases the mind a bit.
I think so. Grace, thank you for that. And I think this is what I love is there's so much stress and pressure on seniors. And especially with pretty much you're done with grades. Pretty much you don't know how you're going to do taking that SAT. You don't even know if the colleges are looking at the SAT. But what I love so much, and you talked about confidence, is this is the one area of the college application process that you can control, that you can learn more about yourself, and that you can really boost your writing skills. So I think it's a ton of fun. I love doing this, and it was and continues to be such a joy and pleasure to work with you. And this is just the beginning of your writing career. So Thank you for joining me again. And I just appreciate you and your time. You are wonderful. Is there anything else before we click off? Any other golden bits of information, or when we look at these tips, something that you're just still like, this is so essential, parents, for your rising seniors to know? This one tip or advice will just make this so much easier. Or if not, I think you've done a great job so far.
I mean, just thank you for having me on. And as it's June 19th, it's never too early to start. And I think going about it slow and steady is probably,
Slow and
the best
steady
course of
wins the
action.
race. As I am learning in these old age days of my running career, slow and steady wins the race. I will say this, kind of funny, for all of the seniors, rising seniors who have started with us so far, I'm saying to them, okay, everyone, and I think I said this on that Zoom with the parents. I said, here's the thing. Maybe you have 1 or 2 sessions now. I said, the worst thing you can do is think like, oh, I've got this. And then before you know it, the summer flies by and you're like in the same spot as people contacting me in October, freaking out. So parents, if you're watching this now, if your students have started, that's awesome. And we want to keep the momentum up so that they are totally done. Like Grace said, imagine just walking into senior year. You've got this Common App essay done. We have a strategy for those supplemental essays. So once they're released, even though they're usually the same as the year before, it's just the point of following that schedule, getting feedback, doing them, being done, enjoying, fall of your senior year, getting your best grades possible, because a lot of colleges, if you're in the middle grades, if you're in that middle line, you better believe they're going to look at those first semester senior year grades. So awesome. Thank you so much. Please get Grace's book, everyone. Hold it up again for us, Grace. Let's see your published book, All the President's Men, by published author Grace Gilrane, total writing intern this summer. Parents, if you'd like to find out more about our writing enrichment programs for rising 9th, 10th, or 11th graders, or of course, our best-selling college admissions essay writing programs, please write me and give me your email in the comments if you want more information, or you can always message me here on Facebook. Thanks so much. Goodbye, everyone, and we will see you next time. Over and out. Bye.